Hi, this is Daryl. Hi, this is Daryl at Big Hairy Dog. We'll be starting up here in a few minutes. Talk to y'all soon. Here, getting started here, what we're going to take a look at is we are going to take a look at AR charges in Retail Pro. We'll look at some system preferences that you want to make sure you have set. We'll look at charge tender. We will create a couple of transactions in Retail Pro. We will look at creating a payment on account so that you can pay the charges that you create in Retail Pro. We'll also take a look at using Account Link to send that information over to QuickBooks Accounting so that you can see the results of your receipt. So, anybody have any questions yet? No? All right. So, in Retail Pro, we want to make sure that it is set up to handle our data that is going to come over from accounts receivable. So, we're going to go to Options. We're going to go to System Preferences. We'll go down to Local Preferences. We will go down to Point of Sale. Under General Options, we can just kind of take a look at all the fun things that are set up under General Options. Down here under Options at the bottom, we have Limit Charge to AR Customers Only. We want to be sure that is checked. That way, if a customer tries to make a charge to someone who is not set up to be an AR charge customer, it will not allow them to do that charge. Under Fees, we want to make sure that we have a fee set up for POA, for payment on account, so that when the customer does do a charge on their account, they are able to pay for that charge at the Retail Pro register. Under Tenders, we want to make sure that the charge tender is selected so that it can be used for sales. You probably also want to make sure that that is selected so that you're going to know who the charge is to. So you can require that it has a customer's first and last name. You could also require a company if you desired, phone numbers, whatever else you may desire, but at least a first and last name. So when we have all of that set up, we're then ready to look at making some sales. So for that, we're going to go over to our receipts. We will go to a new receipt, and we're going to create a sale. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a customer here to pick on. I'm going to pick on David here. So we'll select David. We're going to come down here and we are going to make a purchase of an item. So I'm going to purchase this Nike shoe. David is going to charge this shoe. So we're going to select Tender. We're going to select Charge. We can enter the terms, if desired, for when we expect David to pay this by. I'm going to put 30 days. We have the total charge. I'm going to say OK. It's going to create that tender. And then I'm not going to print it because I don't need to print it, but I'm going to say update. And it's going to update that charge. And we've now created a charge tender for David. So next thing we want to do is we want to create a payment for someone to see how that works. So I'm going to select another customer. I'm going to select Sean here. I'm going to say OK. Sean wants to make a payment on his charge account. I'm going to come down here to fee, and I'm going to put in the payment. When I press enter, it's going to say, what kind of fee am I using? I'm using a POA, a payment on account. We'll go to tender. David is going to, or Sean is going to pay that using a check. So we're going to pay that with check number 2548 and OK. And we've got the check payment. And we're going to update that payment. So we've made a charge and we've made a payment. Hopefully your days are a lot busier than that in your store, and you're going to have a whole lot more transactions transpire than just a simple charge and a payment. And as we look at our agenda, that takes care of the first part, making a charge and making a payment. So the next thing we want to take a look at is account link. So I have account link open down here. I'll open up account link. In account link, this is where we tell the system how it's going to communicate with our accounting software. Under options, under preferences, we tell it what accounting software we are going to be talking to with our account link. Account link can speak with QuickBooks, with BusinessWorks, with Mass 90, or with Sage 100. So I've got mine set up to communicate with QuickBooks. Next, under GL accounts, QuickBooks uses a flexible account structure. What that means is that when you do something in account link, it is going to look for the name that appears in your QuickBooks chart of accounts, not a number. You can put numbers in the QuickBooks chart of accounts, but it truly doesn't care whether you put a number or not. Under GL options, this asks us what accounts are we currently going to be using for our point of sale. And we've got all of them selected. Under AR options, we have the charge account set to be our AR tender. We have the fee POA set for fees so that we can receive payments on our accounts. We also have it set up to grab the address information out of Retail Pro and send that over to our QuickBooks. Accounts payable, we don't really care about at this point because we're not doing accounts payable today, but that is also set up to use the addresses out of Retail Pro. System options allows us to say how long we're going to keep two different types of batches. In Retail Pro, there are three kinds of batches you can have, or in account link rather, excuse me. You can have a preview batch, which is a batch, all you can do is look at it and throw it away. And if we don't throw it away, the system will throw it away after 15 days. You can also have a marked batch. A marked batch is a batch you read that you are preparing to send to your QuickBooks. If you look at the marked batch and decide it looks good, you can then post that batch. When you post it, it becomes a posted batch. And I've told my account link to keep posted batches for 90 days. It will then purge them out of the system. Doesn't mean it purges it out of my accounting. It just purges out of account link so I can no longer review that particular batch in account link. Down here under QuickBooks settings, it says, where are we going to keep our QuickBooks files? When you create a batch and post a batch out of account link for QuickBooks creates an Iif file, that is an Intuit interchange file, and the D:QB data is telling it where to put that Iif file. Once it has created that Iif file, I can then go into my QuickBooks accounting and import that file. Also under the QuickBooks, I have the option for setting up accounts payable. Under accounts payable, we say the accounts payable is going to go to the accounts payable account, and it also has an AP clearing account because QuickBooks and account link do not have the ability to communicate directly to the accounts payable account or the accounts receivable account. You need a clearing account. So for accounts payable, I have an AP clearing account. For accounts receivable, I have an AR clearing account. What happens with those accounts is whatever transactions you are sending over, as far as AR or AP, they go into the AR or AP clearing. Then the invoices come out of AP or AR clearing. When all is said and done, you should end up with a balance in both AR and AP clearing of 0 at all times. If the balances aren't 0, then that tells you something did not come over correctly. So you want to keep an eye on your balances for AR and AP clearing to make sure they're 0. If they're not 0, we recommend you give us a call. We'll show you how to go through and what to look for so that you can fix those so they are 0 again. You can always call us for help, or if you figure out how to do it, then you can do it on your own. And you can call us if you get stuck. There is no settings under GL for QuickBooks accounting. So now that we've set our basics, here under Store Account Manager, we set the specifics. What store are we using? And what account is it going to use, and where's it going to send what it does? So you can see here I've got my cash and credit card accounts all going to undeposited funds in my QuickBooks. I've got gift cards going to a customer deposits gift card account. I've got my gift certificates, store credits, customer deposits, all going to customer deposit accounts and sub-accounts. I have my sales going to merchandise sales, sales discounts going to sales discounts account. I've got sales tax going to sales tax payable RPRO because Retail Pro also cannot post to the sales tax payable account that's already in QuickBooks. So hang on one second. Okay. Diane asked a question about the QuickBooks, and she knows that I'm talking about using standard desktop QuickBooks, and that is correct. Account Link will only sync with the desktop version of QuickBooks. It will not sync with the online version of QuickBooks. So we continue mapping our QuickBooks, and we map out where everything's going to go to. Receipt fees are going to go to receipt fees, with the exception of our P number 1, POA, that payment on account. That's going to go to the AR clearing account. We go on down and we get to inventory. Our inventory is going to go to inventory account. Our cost of goods accounts are going to go to cost of goods sold. Rounding will go to merchandise sales. Inventory is still going to go to inventory. Our voucher fees will go to cost of goods voucher fees. We can see sales tax again goes to sales tax payable RPRO. Accounts payable go to the AP clearing account. Inventory and inventory adjustments for slips and memos. And back up here, the charge also goes to the AR clearing account. So when we have all that set, we save our settings. Oh, and you might have noticed there that I have 2 stores here. Each store can be set up independently, or you can set up the entire company where everything goes to the same place for each account, or for each individual store, it can go to separate individual places. So if you wanted your sales account to go to sales SAC for my Sacramento store, and for sales Ross for my Roseville store, then you could have those separate accounts and point Account Link to those separate accounts, and it would send it to those accounts in your QuickBooks. Okay, so with our QuickBooks all set up there and our Account Link all set up, we are ready to bring in our sales we had in Retail Pro. So I'm going to go to Batches. Under Batches, there are 4 different kinds of batches I can run in my Account Link. I've got receipts, which are for any sales that I do. Vouchers for any stuff I receive from my vendors. Slips for stuff I transfer between stores. And memos for any adjustments I may make to my inventory that don't involve a receipt, a voucher, or a slip. So today we're looking at accounts receivable, so that falls under receipts. So this is a previous receipt batch that I read. I want to read a new batch, so I'm going to go up here to read. I want to read the batch as marked. If it is preview, which is another option I have, then I can only look at it and throw it away. As marked, I can look at it, I can unmark it if something's not right, or I can post it if it looks good. So we have a receipt batch information up here. That's what it's going to call that batch when it creates the Iif file. We also have a document start date and end date. With receipts, you want all 3 dates to generally be the same date. You're going to read the batch. You want the batch description to tell you when the batch is. You want the start and end date to be the date that you're reading for. Account Link lets you read for any date range you want to read for. But if you're going to try to sync it up and match things and reconcile your checkbook, you want sales to come in a day at a time. Otherwise, you'll never make any sense out of reconciling your checkbook. So we are going to tell it to read that. I've got it set to read a single batch for each store. That means if I have more than one store, I will get a single batch for each store that I can then import individually. I can import them into the same QuickBooks account, or I could import them into different QuickBooks company files if I so desired. So I'm going to say OK. It's going to read what happened, and it shows me a summary of my sales for today. I've got an AR charge. I've got a check. I've got cost of goods. I've got my merchandise sales. I've got my accounts, my POA, which is my accounts receivable clearing account, where that's going to. I have my inventory adjustment, and I have my sales tax. So everything looks good. I want to post this batch. I could also go to List View. List View shows me each individual transaction. But I rarely look at List View unless I'm trying to find something odd. Normally, I'm going to look at receipts in Form View. I'll post that. I'll post it today's date. I will post it by store or company. I do not post by transaction. If you post by transaction, it's going to make things really hard to figure out when you are looking at your accounting software. So I want it posted by store. I'm going to say OK. It posted it successfully. Now that the posting has been done, I am going to run over to my QuickBooks. In my QuickBooks, I want to import that Iif file that I just created. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Utilities. I'm going to go to Import Iif File. My files are stored in my QB data folder. I've got an old file here. I'm going to put that in Imported Batches. I've got another one I'm going to put in Imported Batches. And here's the one we just read. It's got today's date on it. I'm going to select that one. I'm going to open it up and import that data. This tells me that I have David set up to have a 0 credit limit, so I'm exceeding his credit limit. I don't care. I've already completed the transaction in Retail Pro, so my answer is yes. It brings in that information. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to go to Chart of Accounts. I'm going to look at AR clearing and make sure it is 0. If I open up AR clearing, we can see here that here's my general journal that came in. Here is my charge that David made, and here's the payment that Sean made. And so I end up at 0. I started at 0, and I end up at 0. All right. If I went to my customer list, I could look up David, and I can see there's that charge he made. I can look at Sean, and I can see there's that payment he made. So I can see both payments and charges by going to the customer account. When I'm dealing with ARs, one thing I like to do is I like to go to my reports, go to customers and receivables, go to my Open Invoices report, and that shows me any AR invoices that I have that are open. I can see here for David, I've got a payment and I've got an invoice. I can double click on the invoice. I can apply the credit, apply that payment to the invoice, and that will mark that invoice as paid. And it adjusts the value that David has. I've also got the invoice and payment for Sean. I can do the same thing. I double click on the invoice, apply credits. It'll check off the payment. If it doesn't, I can manually check it off. I can say done, save and close. It marks that as paid, and it updates my open invoices. And I can see that both David and Sean have a little bit of credit to their name. All right. So that is basically accounts receivable and account link. Any questions? And Ashley asked a question about should you always be bringing over your adjustment memos? And yes, the adjustment memos make sure that your inventory stays in sync with your Retail Pro. Adjustment memos and slips, depending on how much you have. Adjustment memos, most people do those on a monthly basis. Just to make sure that your inventory stays in sync. So, any other questions? I don't see any. I don't hear any. So, if you don't have any questions, that's all I've got for you today. If you think of any questions, feel free to give us a call at Big Hairy Dog, 916-368-1070, or feel free to drop me a message at Darrell, at Darrell F, DARRELL, F like Frank, at bighairydog.com, and I'll be happy to answer that for you. And then someone else, Anita, asked a question about when you import receipts, do you assign balances to the various accounts? You don't need to. The balances are automatically going to be adjusted as you bring things in and out of your accounting. If you are starting from an existing standpoint, then you would put a beginning balance for it to work from. But when you import the batches, your accounting should have a full listing of all the transactions that occur. All right. So everybody have a great one, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.